All right, guys, welcome back. It is Thanksgiving 2024. It feels like it's been a while since I made a sit down and talk video, but I figured today would be as good of a day as any. And I have a few things I want to share with you, my thoughts on Thanksgiving and the things that come with the holiday season, not just Thanksgiving, but Christmas likewise. And I think they're worth remarking upon. And I hope it'll give you something to think about. So I encourage you to leave a comment down below after you've listened to this and give me your thoughts and your perspective. One of the things I love about Thanksgiving, or at least this time of the year, is the amount of time we get off from work. It's pretty nice, isn't it? When your expectations are that you're going to lounge around and you're going to eat a lot, and that you're going to start, if you haven't already, start assembling a Christmas list of what you want to get everybody. Hopefully you've been doing that for a while. Chances are most of us guys have not. I typically don't spend a lot of money before Thanksgiving on gifts. It would be wise to, I guess. It would be nice to be able to do that, but I usually have a lot of other things going on, and it's like the last thing in my mind. So I don't do Black Friday. I just don't do Black Friday, even though, after Thanksgiving night, I guess, is when Black Friday starts, right? I mean, technically speaking. And I have never been one to raid the stores, raid and pillage, like it seems like everybody else does. And I don't even know if it goes on the same way it used to, let's say like 10 years ago, because of Amazon and whatnot. I mean, everybody's ordering things online. I don't like to order anything online except through Amazon. I've ordered from a number of different companies before, only to get gypped somehow. Either I don't get the product that I paid for, or it doesn't come at all, or you get some variation of it, and I just don't like doing that. I found Amazon to be a little more consistent, and I've never had any problems with them. I know some people might have, but I haven't, so I think that for the most part, most of my shopping will be done that way. But I just do not like the whole Black Friday thing. And to me, it's not worth the savings. To some people, it is. Is it to you? Leave a comment down below. Do you like the whole hustle and bustle of Black Friday? And tell me, are they even still doing that anymore the way they used to? Because I won't know, because I'm not going out. Homie, don't play that. I just don't do it. But I said, the expectations of the holidays around this time are that you sit around, you eat a lot, you watch football. It seems like a lot of casual time, right? But there is expectations, I think, on the negative side. I don't know who does the cooking in your home. My wife does. In mine, I'm not a cook. If I was single, I would eat like a young single man still. She does most of the cooking, and it's a lot of work for her. And to me, I think she does too much. In fact, I know she does way too much, because she wants, I guess, some ideal perfection, maybe. She wants to make a good impression on whoever's coming over. And we don't really go out anywhere. We don't go over to anybody else's houses. We've never done that. We have 4 kids, they're all grown now, but we've never done that. And I've been thankful for that. Actually, I've been very thankful for that. I like staying at home. I don't like traveling for the holidays. But sometimes people come over to our house. And so, the host or hostess likes to make a good impression. And I think the expectations are just too high. And if they're not careful, or whoever's not careful, it can actually ruin the holidays, right? Because if something's not up to snuff, if it's not where you want it to be, then it's very disappointing, and it can just cast a pall over the whole day, and then put you in a bad mood. And I like to keep my expectations low. What I suggested this year is that we all go to Cracker Barrel. They have a Thanksgiving deal there for a family. It looks pretty good. I think it was around $150. And I told her, I said, listen, you wouldn't have to do any cooking. You wouldn't have anybody to impress. You know, I'll spend the money. It'd be less money than what you would spend on all the food that you're going to make, and a lot of it doesn't even get eaten. At Cracker Barrel, all that food's going to get eaten, I assure you. It's going to cost less. We can come home. There's no cleanup. After Thanksgiving's over with, after the meal's over with, I'm the one who does all the cleanup, and that's a lot of work in and of itself. Probably not as much as the cooking, but it's a lot of work. I got a few stories about that. But anyway, the expectations that one has around the holidays can really leave you disappointed. So I personally, if I had my way about it, the expectations would be kept a little bit lower, not low, but lower, to remain enjoyable. Okay. Now I find that as Christmas comes on, it goes from expectations to competition. The competition to get the gifts. Well, if you have children, get the gifts for your children, your spouse, or whoever, the people that you love. You want to make sure you get them what you want to get them, and you'll raise somebody, which is why Black Friday turns out the way it does. But you're going to be very competitive to get those things because you want to make sure that you're well thought of and that they're going to be happy, right? So it's very, very competitive. Sometimes I think, though, what happens is that loved ones will become competitive between each other as to who can get the better gift. And I'm not immune to this by any stretch of the imagination, okay? So I know whereof I speak. But we can become competitive with each other, which brings on a lot of problems. If you outdo someone else, and you know they're competing with you to some degree, then they're going to be hurt when they feel like they didn't do as well as you, or it's going to be the other way around. And it's if you're buying for somebody else other than each other, I was referring to spouses here mainly, but people who care about each other that way. But if you're buying for kids, it can still be competitive. I just don't like the whole competitive spirit. I don't think that's what Christmas or Thanksgiving is all about. I think the competitiveness in relationships, interpersonal relationships, is horrible. And I think here's a good way of putting all this. I've been reading a book called The Courage to Be Disliked. I'll put a link for this down below. It's a fantastic book. But anyway, I'm just going to read you a little excerpt from his book here. It's written by Ichiro Kashimi and Fumitake Koga. So obviously this is a translation of a Japanese book, but it's really, really good. Anyway, in one part of this book, he talks about the competition in interpersonal relationships. And here's what he says. If there is competition at the core of a person's interpersonal relationships, he will not be able to escape interpersonal relationship problems or escape misfortune. Okay, and he goes on to say, when one is conscious of competition and victory and defeat, it is inevitable that feelings of inferiority will arise because one is constantly comparing oneself to others and thinking, I beat that person, or I lost to that person. All right? I don't need to add a lot to that, but I think it pretty much sums it up. You don't want to be in that mindset, and you don't want anybody else to be in that mindset. Even if you feel victorious, you don't want somebody else to feel beat. You don't want somebody else to feel disappointed or sad or let down or hurt in any way whatsoever. So I would encourage you this holiday season to leave the competition or the spirit of competition out of your relationships, out of your shopping. Keep your expectations a little bit lower. And I think the holiday season will fare a little bit better. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that. So do you watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? Now, I say that. I say that carefully. Do you watch the parade? Okay, it's on in our house. I don't think anybody really watches it. It's kind of like a tradition. It's just kind of there in the background. I enjoyed it as a child. I don't think I even watched it avidly, but it was always on Thanksgiving morning. I like the sounds. Just seems like the thing to have on. But as I've grown older, I've become much more cynical about it. I just find it obnoxious now. I have long lost any kind of positive impressions of celebrities or pop singers or anything popular in the culture at all. So none of it means anything to me anymore. Now, like we had it on this morning. By the time you're watching this video, it's done and over with. But there was a time I think it was better than it used to be. Definitely. But do you watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? I've made a couple of videos about the history of the Macy's Parade, but I'm not going to rehash all of it. I just want to mention a couple of things. Of course, this year is the 100th anniversary of the parade. Even though Hulu says it's the 98th parade, it's not. It's the 100th one. It started in 1924. And the first few years that the parade was going, they didn't have floats. They had zoo animals. And after a few years, they started adding balloons. They were just inflated, but then they started adding helium, because what they would do is at the end of the parade, they would let the balloons go and they would kind of float away. And I don't think they were floating very far away. I think Roosevelt Island was one of the places that people would find the balloons. But the balloons were designed in such a way that the helium would slowly leak out over a week, and then they would slowly descend. And there were patches on, or you could find a patch on the balloons somewhere that would indicate where you could return the balloon to, the deflated balloon to, and you would get $100. Now, in today's terms, that's around $1,700. So I can imagine there were probably a few people that were out looking for these balloons. Wouldn't they be fun, like after the parade, to spend your Thanksgiving Day going looking for the balloons and maybe getting some extra cash? I don't know how that looked or how that played out, but that's what they did. And after a couple of years, I think they lowered it to $50 for the return. And then there's some pilots back then. There's one particular pilot. He was an aviation pioneer, actually. I can't remember his name. But he saw a balloon floating. It was a Dragon balloon, and he decapitated it with his wing, the wing of his airplane, and he brought it back, and I think he received $25 for it. And then I think in 1932 or 33, they stopped doing that because another woman, female pilot, tried to do something similar and almost lost her life, almost crashed doing it. So they stopped all that. Now they don't do that at all. And Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade has not been without its mishaps, but it's an interesting it's an interesting history. If you haven't really dived into it, I would encourage you to do so. But anyway, have you ever heard of the Ragamuffin Parade? I had heard something about this on the radio the other day, and I decided to take a look at it myself. So I looked this up on Wikipedia, and the short history of the whole thing is back in 1870, they started this Ragamuffin Parade where children in, I think it was Brooklyn, New York, would dress up as homeless people or poor children, and they would go around in the parade, I guess, asking and begging for candy and treats and money and stuff like that. But as the Macy's parade came around, it kind of squeezed all of it out. They wanted to get rid of it, so they would hold the parade on the same day, and then they just couldn't make room anymore for the Ragamuffin Parade, which, you know, is probably better off. I mean, if you think about it. But there was actually this thing called a Ragamuffin Parade, and I think it stopped. I think it completely ended in 1956, even though Macy's what they did was they kind of pushed it to the outskirts of New York, and the city's out of the limits there, and they try to keep it going for a while. But like I said, it stopped. I think they stopped doing it in 1956, but I'd never heard of such a thing up to that point. So I don't know. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever seen anything about that? I saw some pictures online where it looks like some people still do some semblance of that somewhere. Have you ever experienced that? I have never heard of it up until this year. I don't know why it's never talked about. It's just kind of weird to me. So I did look up what Americans are thankful for. Now, you can find all sorts of surveys and opinions online about this, and so I just picked one. This is from lifewayresearch.com, and here's what it said that Americans are thankful. This is what they reported. This is who they talked to, who they polled, and this is the results. 68% of the people they talked to said they were thankful for their family. 67% of the people they talked to said they were thankful for God, which, I mean, kind of surprises me, actually. I wouldn't have thought that most people would have said that. I don't know, maybe they were just talking to Christians. I don't know. I don't think you have to be a Christian to appreciate God, but you know what I'm saying. All right, and they said 42% were thankful for their friends. Only 42%. Only 42% were thankful for their friends. It's kind of like, are you thankful for your friends? Meh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I like them. Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad I have them. And then only 16% said they were thankful for themselves, for myself. I don't know what this says about people's self-esteem. I don't even know why I would say I was thankful for myself. Like, how do you survey people and ask that question? That's what I would want to know. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I'm thankful that I'm here. I'm thankful that I'm around. But and then get this one. 10% said they were thankful for fate. What does that even mean? That fate was seemingly on their side, that things have worked out like they hoped they would, or that they weren't worse than what they could have been? I mean, there is something to that, but what does that even mean when they put it down here? Only 10% were thankful for that. If it means what I just said, then I think a whole lot more people ought to be thankful. Maybe it's just the terms they put it in. Okay, and then only 4% said, I don't give thanks. There are people who said, I don't give thanks. What do they mean, just on Thanksgiving? They don't acknowledge the holiday? So it's kind of vague. There are some people who just are not very thankful people. They are, they're ungrateful, but I was going to say they're unhappy. I mean, really one of the keystones to being happy is to be grateful, to have a grateful heart. We know this, right? Right? Complain less. Try not to complain at all. Eliminate it from your life. And you'll find out that if you want to say something, you got to pick your words wisely, and you'll find yourself giving thanks rather than griping and whining. All right. Make your holidays a little bit better too. All right, so what is your favorite side dish on Thanksgiving? There's the staples like stuffing, green bean casserole. Oh, I love that, especially if it's got plenty of that cream of mushroom soup or whatever it is that's in there, bacon and all that. I love it. Stuffing, I love. Macaroni and cheese. I don't know why, but this year I've heard more people say they're going to make macaroni and cheese. I've heard that so much. I don't know if it's a thing now. I mean, obviously people have been doing it for a while, but is it more popular now than it used to be? And don't get me wrong, I love macaroni and cheese, especially homemade macaroni and cheese. It's just the best. I mean, I guess you could screw it up. We went to the store yesterday. In fact, I made 5 or 6 different trips to the store, to 3 different grocery stores. That's including Sam's yesterday. And we could not find all the different types of cheese that my daughter needed to make her macaroni and cheese. And everybody was frustrated. Everybody was at the cheese thing going, where's it all at? So anyway, that's not my favorite side dish, I'll have to say, because I feel like I can get macaroni and cheese anytime. The number one favorite side dish for Americans was stuffing. That's right. I mean, that's to be expected. My favorite side dish, Mila Kunis. Don't judge me. Oh, stop. Get over it. You know I'm kidding. It's not like I said the bartender at Chili's or something like that, or my kid's teacher. None of my kids are in school, but you know what I mean. I'm kidding, right? My favorite side dish is stuffing. Mila Kunis. All right. So I have got some funny stories that I want to share with you. The very first story I want to share with you was submitted by someone named Robin in Ohio. And these are true stories coming out of Thanksgiving, and these are all submitted to newengland.com. And here's what it says. I spent my first Thanksgiving with my husband in his Irish-Italian neighborhood in New York City. As a newcomer, I was placed in charge of boiling 15 pounds of potatoes. When they were ready, I picked up the pan and surveyed the crowded kitchen for a sink in which to drain them. My husband's elderly Uncle Bob guided me to a small half bathroom and grabbed the steaming pot. He started to drain the potatoes into the toilet. Who does that? But he lost his grip on the lid and all the potatoes tumbled in. I screamed, "Oh no!" But Uncle Bob began fishing the potatoes out of the toilet. "No one will ever know," he whispered. "Now just go out there and mash them." Sometime later during the meal, my husband's Aunt Tot leaned over and whispered, "Your potatoes are delicious. I think you are going to fit into this family quite nicely." Here's one submitted by Kathy in Massachusetts, Westminster, Massachusetts. She said, "My girlfriend, brought up by her mother and living grandmother, never learned anything about cooking. But with a cookbook and a lot of confidence, she decided to cook Thanksgiving dinner for the entire family. After reading the directions about cleaning and stuffing the bird, she went ahead and did so, then put it into the oven. After a few hours, she checked on the bird and found it foaming all over the oven. She had cleaned it with ivory soap." And the last one here is from Margaret in Tucson, Arizona. She said, "When Ken and Lydia were given a turkey to raise for Thanksgiving, Lydia took on the responsibility with enthusiasm. She fed it, talked to it, and far ahead of time invited both sets of parents to the big dinner. As the days grew closer to the holiday, though, Lydia became more and more quiet. Finally, on the day before the big feast, Lydia burst into tears and told Ken, 'I can't do it.' Ken calmed her and promised to take care of everything. He went outside and after a short while returned with a limp turkey under his arm, trailing a whiff of chloroform. Putting the bird in the refrigerator, he suggested they go to bed and deal with dinner preparations in the morning. The next day, Lydia woke early and went into the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator door and out flapped the turkey. Her screams brought Ken rushing down to find his wife on the floor in a dead faint and the turkey tottering unsteadily around the room. When Lydia revived, Ken had put the turkey out in the yard where it lived out its life free from stress and fear of extinction. As for us, we decided to go out to eat. No one ordered turkey." That's pretty funny. I like those. Do you have your own funny Thanksgiving story? I have one. I do. I don't know if I want to tell it here. I think I'll wait. Maybe next year I'll retell it because I've already told it once, I think, before. But yeah. In the end of the story, I will tell you though, my wife was none too happy with me. Okay, so let's talk about patience. When we are out on the road, or whether we're staying at home with a family when we're not used to normally doing so because we're all working at the same time, our patience is going to be tested intensely, probably, right? And I read something in another book that I've been reading by Rick Rubin's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. I'll leave a link for this likewise down below. And it's a really good book, and while the book mostly is just talking about the creative process, this point he makes here still applies. Here's what he said, and I hope you remember this. I hope you take it to heart, and I hope it makes your holiday season a lot better. He said, "Patience is developed much like awareness, through an acceptance of what is. Impatience is an argument with reality." Wow, that is, I love that statement. Impatience is an argument with reality. I love that. The desire for something to be different from what we are experiencing in the here and now. A wish for time to speed up, tomorrow to come sooner, to relive yesterday, or to close your eyes, then open them and find yourself in another place. Time is something that we have no control over, so patience begins with acceptance of natural rhythms. The implied benefit of impatience is to save time by speeding up and skipping ahead of those rhythms. Paradoxically, this ends up taking more time and using more energy. It's wasted effort. I hope you guys are not arguing with reality. I hope that you are taking your time and paying attention to the rhythm in your environment. I think if you do that, things will play out much more favorably for you. I am learning to do that. I am trying to pay attention to what is actually going on rather than trying to change everything around me. It's hard not to be controlling. It's hard not to fight for what you want. It's hard to not compete with others. And I think this is something that we can all take away today. I think it's something we can all remember, and I hope that it's meant something to you. I do want to share one last quote with you before I go. This is from the 17th century English writer named Isaac Walton. Here's what he said. Let me get my glasses back on for this. He said, "God has two dwellings, one in heaven and the other in a meek and thankful heart." God has two dwellings, one in heaven and the other in a meek and thankful heart. You want God to dwell in your heart? Well, I could comment a lot more on that, but start by being thankful. Be thankful. And God smiles on that. He's actually been quite gracious to you. He's given you more than you probably ever counted. And I hope that you make those things count this season rather than all the negative things that might cross your path. All right? Well, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving. Who are you rooting for? I see that the Dolphins and the Packers are playing tonight, and that the Lions and the Bears are playing this afternoon. I don't know if I would like to see the Lions do well. I would love to see the Lions do well. I'm not rooting necessarily for either team except maybe for the Lions, but I'm not a big fan of any of them really, but I would like to see the Lions do well. Who are you rooting for? And do you watch the dog show after the parade? I don't. I can't stand it. It seems too uppity for me. It seems like something snooty people would do, you know? Anyway, I'm off of the wrong thing. I've talked way too long. Guys, I appreciate your time. Leave your comments down below. Tell me what you're thankful for. Share your experiences. Have you ever been to the Macy's parade? I don't know that I ever really want to attend, but it'd be kind of a cool thought. We know some people that are up there right now. But let me know. Leave your comments down below. Like the video too. All right? All right. It's been fun. It's been real. And I hope to see you on the next one. In the meantime, be wise.